shit, that was a 5-round war from Marvin Vettori and Jack Hermansson. Do you know what's funny? I feel really good for Marvin because he was like the second replacement for Jack's original opponent, and now he's jumped from number 13 or number 12 to number 4 in the rankings. He's jumped so many people just by taking a short notice fight, even though he was going to fight a week later against Kevin Holland, I believe. I feel bad for Jack because he really could have just said, nah, my number 4 ranking is, more important than taking, the third opponent that comes my way. And he just ended up losing. He got dropped by Marvin in the first round, and for a second I was like, oh shit, is it all over? But he stuck in there. He just pulled him into full guard, and just tried to survive the rest of the round. And I don't know. I think I would give Jack maybe the third. I would give Jack the third round, possibly the second round, but there were such close rounds, and Marvin did really, really well. I didn't expect him to have the performance he did against Jack. I really felt like Jack was on another level of like striking. However, I think what I noticed was Marvin being southpaw really was quite difficult for Jack to adapt to. I don't know about his original opponents if they were southpaw or orthodox, but he seemed like he was having issue with actually just connecting with shots with Marvin, because Marvin would just slip off the line and bang, that left straight would continue to crack him. I thought it was a really good fight, and I felt like Marvin Vettori's grappling is probably getting the respect it deserves now, because it was quite underrated before, and everyone was expecting Hermansson to be the better grappler, when in fact it was Vettori that was out-grappling Jack in that moment. I felt like Jack was on the back pedal for a good bit of the fight because he was trying to recover from all the damage he took in that first round. I think if that first round didn't go the way it was, I feel like Jack's stamina and, his overall ability would have been much better in these later rounds, but I felt like he was like struggling from taking that damage in the first round and just trying to claw back. He did well in the second and the third. I would give him the third for sure, because I felt like Vettori was trying to rest a little bit. Second, possibly, but Vettori has to get 1, 4, and 5, And those number 2 and number 3 were fairly close anyway. I felt Vettori, he's fucking huge for middleweight. He's a big, muscly guy, and he's strong. I felt, I don't think he had the same stamina as Hermansson, because he had to back off in the third round to get, he didn't have the same endurance, but fuck, he can crack. The shots that he cracked Hermansson with in the first round just dropped him. Didn't even look like it. It looked like it connected, but it didn't look like he really put everything behind it. Just went boom, cracked him with the left hand, bam, dropped him on the floor. So I'm excited for Marvin Vettori, because he went in. I don't know if you saw that, he went and called out Paulo Costa. He said, Borrachina, let's fucking fight. So I'm excited for that. Marvin Vettori, he's jumped the rankings quite a bit. We know Paulo, he jumped the rankings quite a good bit just by his performances.
Well, 13 to 4th is a very huge jump. I'm not gonna lie, the middleweight division's still pretty stacked. You still got a lot of killers at the top of the ladder on the middleweight division, including Robert Whittaker, who can forget. Jared Cannonier, and Paulo Costa, just because Israel Adesanya has gone up to light heavyweight doesn't mean that the middleweight division is just boring. There's still a lot of potential great fights. It's just, however, sort of Israel Adesanya sort of cleared out the division for himself, but the other fighters below him still have a good chance of putting on some spectacular fights. Not really counting out Jack Hermansson too much. No. I honestly do believe he can come back from it. I think next a good fight for him would be actually Jared Cannonier.
Yeah.
Because they're both quite similar in terms of style, both coming off a loss, you know what I mean? And, even though Robert Whittaker's not fighting right now, Marvin, if he does end up getting the fight with Paul Acosta, I mean, maybe you can give him or Cannonier. Maybe you could give him Whitaker next, but maybe that's a little bit too much of a stretch.
Maybe for Jack to bounce back from this fight, I'm all for Marvin fighting Paulo Costa. That seems like a really good fight to me. Two guys with some definite power and definitely will probably stay on the feet. What I thought would be maybe a good one for Jack, maybe a Uriah Hall or something like that. I would, because Uriah's just had that fight with Anderson Silva. I feel like he definitely wants to start climbing the rankings again. I feel like a Uriah Hall or a Jared Cannonier would be good for Jack to bounce back, because they're all starting to hover around that top 5, that top 5 kind of area. And in order to bounce back from a loss, I feel like you've really got to take out a really good opponent, and that would probably be a Jared Cannonier or a Uriah Hall, who are really, really impressive. Now, it was interesting that you didn't, when you were running through all the middleweight fighters that are really great outside of Israel Adesanya and Robert Whitaker, well, one you left out on purpose was because he's just been released by the UFC. Yoel Romero, the Soldier of God. I saw this on Instagram. They said he's no longer the Soldier of God. He's the Soldier of Gone. Like he's. I don't know. He had 3 fights left in his contract. He's been released. His manager said he's left. It's interesting that he's left now. Yeah. Because he hasn't been very active on social media or anything like that. So even any frustrations. Sounds like negotiations might have went south, or he wants to go to a different promotion.
Well, I'm actually just looking at him right now in the corner.
Yeah. He's part of the poster, isn't he?
First of all, I wouldn't be too surprised if he was thinking about maybe it would have been a retirement for him, because he's in his 40s right now. He's one of those fighters that defies age when it comes to athletic ability. And even if he's released and he still wants to fight, I believe Bellator will offer him huge money. And if he left under the dispute of pay, then I don't know. I just felt he's not a very outspoken person when it comes to being a fighter. He doesn't brag on Twitter. He barely posts. He's actually a very, very humble guy, and a lot of fighters love him.
But that's because his English isn't that great, to be fair. When he's on the mic, that's when he's a bit more outspoken and things like that.
I love him when he's on the mic, man. I'll never forget.
I love you, Mike. I love you.
He's super religious too. I remember watching a video on the UFC Fight Pass, and I think it was after one of his fights. I don't remember which one. I think of Robert Whitaker, and his daughter's with him, and he goes, "Oh, how did you get that cut on your face?" And he says, "Oh, I didn't feel it. But then he says to his daughter, "Oh, don't you worry. God is always with you. God never leaves you," and all that. And I was just,
well, he is the Soldier of God.
Yeah,
he's the Soldier of God. He picked that name for a reason.
Yeah,
he's quite. I think a lot of the Cubans tend to be quite religious.
Yeah, they are.
Specifically Christianity, for sure. Yeah.
Do you think he's going to he might go to one or Bellator?
I feel like it could be maybe a negotiating ploy to get back into the UFC.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the UFC is probably still considered by most people the top of the
cream of the crop. Yeah.
The cream of the crop. Yeah.
Well, there is really no competition for them, really. I mean, all the biggest fighters in the world want to be in fight there. They don't have really an opponent. Like when they talk about champions, there's nothing above the UFC. You get what I mean?
Yeah, it's very hard to believe that the UFC released him.
Yeah.
Because he had 3 fights left, even though he was on a 3-fight losing streak, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard to believe that someone like Yoel Romero would be given up by the UFC willingly. It sounds like Yoel Romero, he's either left as a negotiating ploy to get back into the UFC with more money, either to leave and test free agency, which would be one championship or Bellator. I very much disagree. I mean, even people were saying, why not go to bare knuckle boxing? But I was like,
no, thank you.
I mean, if there's anyone whose bones will be ready for bare knuckle and things like that, it's those steel hands.
Here's the thing, though. When it comes to money for a guy like Yoel Romero, I don't think it's money for him. I think it's something else. I think it's... I'll explain that. Because in terms of money, that dude won his legal battle against...
But he doesn't see that for a long time.
Yeah.
That money he doesn't see for a long...
Yeah.
It's 27 million.
Yeah.
He doesn't see that for a very long time.
Still, and he's had some very high-profile fights. You know, I think it's maybe he just has a few issues with the UFC in general, because... Do you remember that time when he fought Robert Whittaker and everyone thought Yoel Romero won that fight? Yeah, I think that could be it, and I feel like he might be denied for a title, but then again, he fought Adesanya, and then that wasn't really considered his exciting fight, you know? The dude's got a highlight knockout. Either way, where the guy goes, if fight or no fight again, he's a legend in the UFC.
Absolute freak athlete, and I would say top one, because there is quite a lot of fighters out there who are the best to not win a UFC title, right? You know, you could say Uriah Faber and things.
Gatekeeper.
Yeah, Uriah Faber, Donald Cerrone, things like that.
Yeah.
But Yoel Romero, I wouldn't say is a gatekeeper. I would say he is probably the very greatest fighter to never win a UFC title.
Good. Agreed.
I mean, the only time you ever see him lose is by decision, except that one time he was knocked out in the UFC. I can't remember the bloke's name, but it was early in his career. I mean, freak athlete, came to the UFC very, very old.
Yeah.
For considered like to other people, right? Already been. I think it is. I think it's less money, although I'm sure he very much enjoys money because he likes to enjoy his nice clothes. He was wearing his Gucci jacket, and that his competitiveness, that sporting competitiveness, where he in Cuba, where he's been taken to be in this sporting environment where if you don't win, you eat less.
Yeah. Right?
And there's that, you know, that wolf pack mentality where you eat each other and the one of the top gets to eat the most and have the best things and things like that. I think is that competitive nature where he's been competing for such a long time at the very high level of wrestling, then moves on to mixed martial arts, almost gets a title. Sounds like it's the sporting environment that he really enjoys, and perhaps he only sees the point of being in the UFC if he can have a title shot to get that title, because he's not getting any younger, even though he is a freak.
Yeah.
An absolute freak. It was also sad because we found out that Leon Edwards, firstly, Khamzat Chimaev, he got tested for positive for COVID.
But he denied it. They denied it as well.
Yeah, I think they didn't want to let that out or something like that. But he said, it's still all good though. Like they still had time until December 19th, right? It gets a bit iffy. Then a week later, Leon Edwards gets positive for COVID. I don't know how the fuck this happens to all these fighters. Yeah. But it could be they've had it already, but they're asymptomatic, but they can't take that risk because they pass it to a different fighter or a different staff member. Then they are not symptomatic. Then they have other issues. They
just can't take the risk.
It's unfortunate that Leon Edwards got that fight got canned because now both of them have COVID. They're seeing if they're going to push that for probably January or February or something like that.
Here's a better idea. Put it on the Conor McGregor versus Poirier card.
Go for it.
You got the man with the most hype, and then you got the man with the most upcoming hype. You know what I mean? And the winner gets to become Dana's boyfriend again. Because
257, the winner becomes Dana's new boyfriend.
Yeah. I mean, you got his biggest money train and you got his biggest upcoming money train.
Oh god.
Exactly. They can have a belt too.
Well, with Dana's pink head on it.
Yeah, something like that.
The pink belt. The pink belt.
Yeah. Well, there's something else I wanted to bring up here right now. I remember there's a lot of speculation about Khabib, about whether or not he's going to come back for to fight again, and his manager keeps dropping like subtle hints. You know, I mean, he keeps dropping like small things on Twitter just to keep things relevant, and then Khabib says openly, he doesn't want to doesn't want to fight. He's got a farm. He's bought horses, and he wants to study. He wants to get his master's degree. And I'm like, yeah. And he bought, what's it called, guerrilla fighting?
He's changed it now to EFC, Eagle Fighting Championship.
Oh, I like that.
I like that as well. EFC sounds good.
Yeah.
And the Eagle Fighting Championship, he bought it for $1 million, I think. So it sounds like he's
a busy man.
I think he wants to have the simple life when it comes to the farming and things like that. It's away from. I don't think he ever liked doing the social media and the reporting, which is what Ali probably took over and did. But he still wants to be involved in mixed martial arts, which would be to grow and put all these Russian martial artists and give them a platform. So
because you got some of the biggest and baddest upcoming fighters right now coming out of Russia.
Yeah, I think every nation has their own kind of MMA promotion which tries to push them into the big ones, which is one championship, Bellator, UFC. And I think for us, it's usually Eternal MMA. I'm pretty sure that one's a big one here. Then in Brazil, they've got Jungle Fight. That's the big one where all the Brazilian fighters come out of. I mean, a lot of Brazilian champions have came out of Jungle Fight.
Correct.
I think I'm pretty sure Davison Figueiredo came from that. I'm pretty sure.
He did.
And then it seems like now in Russia, I mean, there's a lot of Russian MMA promotions, but it sounds like maybe he's trying to grow the EFC, the Eagle Fighting Championship, and that's like a new avenue for Russian fighters to come through and showcase their elite talent. You know, it is interesting that he's bought it right after he's retired.
Well, I mean, he's probably looking for something to keep himself very busy. I mean, the dude's already very busy enough. But he said the reason why he's only going to fight again if his mother approves it. And then there's all these memes coming out there. Even Darren Till posted one saying, please. And then there's this, you just have that meme with that black dude on the phone. And I know. Everyone calling Khabib's mother, asking him to let him fight again.
I know. I saw something interesting, though, on Twitter, and that was Nick Diaz's manager, I believe. I don't know if they spoke to ESPN or they were reporting it, but ESPN was showing that Nick Diaz's manager said there's a 99.999% chance of Nick Diaz coming to fight in the UFC in 2021.
When was his last fight?
Ooh, great question, Joe. I have no idea. I'm going to check that now. It's been quite a long time. It's been a very, very long time.
The Diaz brothers have always had disputes with the UFC.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of YouTube videos of Nick Diaz brothers versus the UFC or versus Dana. Big Daddy Dana.
So many headaches between the two of them. Like, I'll never forget that one time when Nate Diaz was meant to come back and fight. I can't remember who he was meant to be fighting, but then right then and there, Dana White literally just announced Khabib versus Conor McGregor, and he just walked out of the press conference. Like, I understand there's a lot of hype between the two guys, but like, I mean,
okay, so, interesting. Okay, so last three fights was lost to Carlos Condit, lost to GSP. We know these. But his fight against Anderson Silva got changed to a no contest.
Yeah. What year was that Anderson Silva fight?
2015.
So he hasn't fought in
5 years. 5 years. Wow. Long time.
Long time. How old is Nick Diaz right now?
Let me check. 37. So he is not young.
No, he's no spring chicken.
No. But he doesn't, to be fair, when you look at him, he doesn't look 37. No. He doesn't look that old. Interesting about that, though, is like those guys are always known for, brass personalities and smoking weed and things like that. And the UFC is kind of, some of the Nevada State Commission has changed over time where they've allowed people to smoke weed. And we know Tyson smoked weed before his fight, but I believe there's a lot of different issues. What was interesting was Niko Price. His draw against Donald Cerrone has been overturned to a no contest, and he's been suspended for 6 months for testing positive for marijuana. So I like Niko Price. I think he's a great fighter, But it's been overturned to a no contest, and he's been suspended from the UFC for 6 months.
You know what they need to do to further validate the point? They need, in America, is Nevada State Athletic Commission, they need to get a really top-tier university to do another high-class study on marijuana and athletes' performance to show whenever there is actually an effect or not. Okay?
Yeah.
If they're not, because they're not going to listen to the people, they're not going to listen to the fighters. They're going to listen to the people who are the ones behind the desks,
Exactly,
the ones in the labs, to further prove the point. Because, like, Nevada has such a weird agenda against cannabis use and marijuana use.
Yeah.
And athletes, you know.
I mean, Jeff Nowitzki, he works with USADA and things like that, and he's made it clear that I don't think athletes get any benefit out of smoking marijuana. Yeah. I think the only thing he mentioned was that they want it to be under a certain level of THC, and then if they're over that, then that's the case. I'm sure there was a time where I'm pretty sure Nick Diaz tested positive for marijuana. I believe it was Nick Diaz, and it was such a high amount that he had to have been high during the fight. Yeah. So the amount that he tested positive for in it, I believe it was the amount of THC in his blood was so high that he had to have been stoned during the fight. I believe he won the fight. I can't remember because he's had 26 wins, 9 losses, so it's difficult to remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember actually, to be honest. I really should figure that out afterwards. But it's weird that marijuana is still an issue. Now, I mean, obviously in Australia it's not legal and things like that.
Well, CBD is.
It gets funny. CBD, you need a prescription from a doctor.
Still legal. For medical uses, it's legal.
Yeah, but the doctor has to prescribe it, and it can only be their products. You can't get a prescription and then buy something from overseas. It has to be... And then the reason why is so that you buy their CBD, not other people's that are cheaper.
Or not the one out of your uncle's backyard.
That's true. But actually, there's one place that is legal for marijuana in Australia, and that's, I think, ACT. Okay. Pretty sure you're allowed to have 20 grams or something like that.
Oh, they're actually finding out that it's actually helping kids with severe autism.
Yeah, exactly.
The trials have proven pretty effective so far.
Autism, old people with Parkinson's and things like that.
It's used for help people with cancer issues and all that, you know. There's a lot of recreational benefits that are coming out of it. So,
I know there's...
And again, keyword recreational, not performance. That's what we've got to understand.
Yeah, there is definitely a difference. And I know, I can't remember who I was speaking to, but they were doing an honors project, and the honors project was to test the effectiveness of THC on certain characteristics and things like that, and seeing if they reduce certain negative effects through small uses of it. So it is interesting that because the research isn't quite there still is the original stigma of marijuana. The original stigma of marijuana is, I think, slowly getting reduced, but at this day and age, it's still illegal. And I mean, even in places in America, it's still very illegal. In some places, it's not. It's very legal. So, there was an interesting comment that I saw that was really funny, was that the Nevada State Commission will tax the dispensaries from selling legal marijuana, but then the people that test positive for that legal marijuana also get taxed, and they take that money. You know what I mean? It's interesting. It's a money-making scheme, of course, but I mean, at the end of the day, if it's illegal, it's illegal, and they can kind of do whatever they want if they're outside the law. Yeah. We were talking about Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
I didn't, and it wasn't really reported. I don't know if you've seen that, so it'd be interesting to see your reaction. Did you know that after Mike Tyson beat Roy Jones Jr., a fan of Mike Tyson's actually attacked him. They swung at him.
Really?
Yeah, did you know? I was following the Roy Jones fight. A fan came up to him and went for to swing at him. Yeah. So...
Okay, did he get fucked up afterwards?
I don't think Tyson fucked him up, but Tyson's got security and things like that, and he got carried away and things like that. But it was never really spoken of.
I thought you were going to bring up Evander Holyfield or something like that.
No.
You said to me later on in the gym, like, maybe what if Evander Holyfield fought Mike Tyson again? But Evander Holyfield apparently he's fighting someone else.
Yeah, I don't know who he's fighting. What I mentioned was that he's 56, maybe 57 now. Yeah. And I showed you a video from maybe like 8 months or 10 months ago.
Yeah.
He didn't look the same, to be honest. You know, and I mean, you can't expect a 56-year-old, 57-year-old ex-pro boxer to be exactly the same. But I felt even when he was doing shadow boxing, it wasn't fast, but it wasn't sharp either. It doesn't... And shadow boxing doesn't have to be really quick and really fast and things like that, but it was kind of sluggish, you know?
Here's my idea.
Okay.
Get all the legends out of retirement, put them back into boxing. We call it the Elderweight Championships.
Do it.
Everyone gets a belt after every fight. And then it's always 2-minute rounds. If anyone gets cut, it's a no contest. 8 2-minute rounds. You know, we'll get Evander Holyfield. We'll get Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. We get Mundana back in there, you know, from the Argentinian fighter. Hell, even if all those guys are like long retired, just get them back in. You know what I mean? Oscar Lee Hyatt, what's his name?
Oscar De La Hoya.
That he can come back in, you know, because cocaine ain't cheap, and they're all going to be money fights.
That's a Dana White line.
All going to be money fights.
Just looking shortly, I don't know what fight you said that Evander was fighting. All I can see is Evander's still calling out Mike Tyson. He clearly wants. He said, sign the contract and get in the ring.
There you go.
Yeah, I believe I need to do more research on this, but I believe just like Mike, he made a lot of money but lost it. He ended up losing a lot of money. He had to sell his mansion and things like that.
Really?
Yeah, Evander lost a lot. I mean, this is what happens with a lot of these top-level pro boxers that have a lot of, I mean, not ego, but they're very impulsive and things like that, and they tend to lose their money later on in life, and they don't really get that nice storybook ending, especially when they don't get to leave the sport the way they wanted to on top, which is the main goal for most martial artists and things like that. Go on top, set yourself up for generational wealth, move on, have a nice legacy, and move on to the next thing. Sometimes it doesn't work for these pro boxers, and it didn't work for Mike until he met his wife, and his wife did, changed his mind around with lots of things going on.
There was also that, but there was also the death of one of his children. You know, I think Mike went through I remember reading his autobiography, and he had 2 different marriages. He had his first marriage was with a woman called Ruthless, and he just felt like that woman, he hate, like, when he wrote about her in his autobiography, he wrote about every bad thing she ever did to him. She lied about him. Apparently there was domestic assault charges that she laid against him, all these accusations. I don't know. There was a lot of allegations, and then he talks about it a lot, and then there was a point when people came after Mike because they went on Oprah Winfrey's show together, and then 2 years later, he went back on it alone because he was separated from his wife, and Oprah was showing clips, and then she was going, he sort of shot himself in the foot when he said this, but there was a clip when Ruth grabs his hand and is like, I love him, he loves me, we love each other so much, and then Oprah turns and looks at Tyson and goes, what was going through your head when that happened? And then Tyson just says, I really wanted to hit her back then. And then, yeah, I know. So talk about awkward moments on TV, you know. I
think because he's quite impulsive, he just says stuff without meaning it either. And also being a professional boxer and quite scary. I think a lot of people will think that's true.
Yeah.
I fucking hope not, to be honest.
Well, it was in the autobiography. I remember reading it. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, I might read that autobiography. Yeah, that seems quite interesting to read.
He's had so many legal battles against him. Get this is a true story. Apparently, he went one day into Walmart and then he saw this woman who was in her 40s and he just like immediately got attracted to her, seduced her, and then they slept together and then he didn't call her back or something and then she claimed that he assaulted her. And then apparently in his autobiography, like the evidence to prove it was that one of her colleagues says that she drew his dick on a piece of paper to show how big it was. Yeah, they gave that testimony in the court of law, so it was thrown out. It's just, there's no man I've ever known, I can't think of any other athletes who's ever had such a like rough time being famous. When you're famous, man, there's a massive spotlight under you.
Yeah.
Like, well, you have all these like people out to get you, and I'm not. Let's say hypothetically, if he actually did those things, because there was the case that was never that he still denies to this day that Mike Tyson sexually assaulted Desiree Lewis.
I don't know who that is.
Okay, so there was the case when he showed up one night to some beauty pageant, and then what happened was there was a woman, I believe her name was Desiree Lewis. Please don't quote me. I believe that's the name from memory. They sleep together one night. She goes into the limousine and all that, and she's crying apparently, and then she drives home, and then she waits a couple of days, and then accusations go out against. She accuses Mike Tyson in the state of Mississippi, and then in Mississippi he goes and he's found guilty in the court of law, and he was sentenced to jail time. I think it was 3 years. And he still to this day denies that he raped her and all that. Like, it's, that's just one of the many cases of women against him. But also during that time when he was in jail, that was also when he found Islam.
Yeah.
And he became a Muslim, and that's when he sort of started to change his ways and all that a little bit. But then again, man, like, the point I'm trying to make is when you're famous, everybody wants a piece of you.
Yeah, it's difficult with that kind of stuff because you really hope it's not true because, there's a lot of good that these people can make, and that's something that you really hate, that someone of that is not someone of that nature.
Yeah.
Because that's when you're like, nah, you can't be around someone like that, or you can't have someone as great as Mike Tyson as your idol if something like that is true. So it gets weird there. Interesting to see what is going to be his next fight, because I feel like he's doing some real good by doing the charity matches. And he's getting two things. He's getting the goodness out of just, the altruism of helping everyone and spending a lot of work in the gym to provide for other people through the likes of charity. But he's also got a goal in mind, and his ego can have something to feed on, and he can get stronger in the gym, and he's just building his body for a healthier and better life. It's good to see that is going to bring about some good things that he's doing now.
Well, it's working, because the Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. fight made way more pay-per-view buyers than Tyson versus Fury. So, which are we going to... not Tyson versus... Fury versus Wilder. That's what I was thinking of. My bad.
I don't know if we're going to see that third fight.
You don't reckon?
He's brought out some weird... we don't really have to mention all that, because everyone has talked about all of excuses, but they are hogwash. They're a load of rubbish. It's the amount of like stuff he's brought out that it's everyone else's fault and not my own. Yeah,
he's not gracious in defeat. That's all I can say.
No, and that's something that we quite respect with fighters. Is they're grateful in victory and graceful in defeat, when a fighter's not like that and doesn't blame themselves. You don't want them to be like down in the dumps, blaming themselves and things like that, but to blame everyone except yourself, and then
take responsibility,
and even get rid of your train and things like that. It's not good. It's not good at all. It's there's something I wanted to talk about, because I don't know if we're going to see that in the future, but I thought it was interesting, and I was thinking about it the other day, and I wanted to mention it to you. Boxing has been an Olympic sport for a long time, right? A very, very long time. And that's why it is probably so much more popular than MMA and things like that. And we were earlier talking about guerrilla fighting championships. It's now became eagle fighting championships. And Khabib said that it's his main goal now is to bring MMA as an Olympic sport by 2028
That
Olympics.
would be very interesting.
And the 2028 Olympics is supposed to be in LA, Los Angeles. So it's interesting that he says he wants to bring it to an Olympic level. I don't know how it's going to go. And I wanted to push to you a question that I'd been thinking about was, do you reckon it'll ever become an Olympic sport? And do you think it will just take a serious amount of time before it's like truly respected along other sports?
Yes. I'll give you there's a reason why I believe it will. And then there's an obstacle they need to get past. Okay, so the first one is the reason why I believe it will is because I would claim that MMA is the biggest sport of 2020. Every single sport perished this year through the coronavirus. MMA held up. UFC held up. They put on fights almost every week during the thing. Dana moved to Fight Island, Apex Center. You know, now we've got these places opening up. People can put on more fights. No other sports survived. NBA, rugby, football, AFL. Everything was suspended. Everything. So,
and only slowly coming back now.
Yeah. So 2020 was the year of MMA. And I remember there was a quote on my wall in the UFC gym where Dana White is saying, I reckon MMA will be the biggest sport in the world by 2020. And I believe he was right. So that's why I believe. And eventually it's going to keep getting bigger. It's going to keep getting, we're going to have more stars. We've got so much upcoming talent. So I reckon. And there's like events now growing, organizations growing everywhere. It will take a long time because the reason why is because this is a combat sport. And I don't think the Olympics goes for what, 2 weeks? How many times does a fighter have to fight in over a space of 2 weeks before he gets gold? And how dangerous that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't want people fighting multiple times in one night.
No, but they do it in kickboxing.
There you go. Yeah.
They do it in the King of the Ring and things like this.
Yeah.
I found that there was a few obstacles that I wanted to mention. I think one of the main obstacles is, I mean, you're trying to get MMA into the Olympics, but we still don't have kickboxing in the Olympics, you know? We've got boxing, we've got wrestling.
We've got judo.
And we've got judo and we've got taekwondo. I'll get back to that in a second because that's an interesting one to talk about as well. But we don't even have kickboxing. And to bring in MMA where there's very minimal, it's full contact, the fullest of contact, to be honest. Are we going to see a more watered down version of MMA if it is in the Olympics? And the reason why I might say that is Taekwondo, there's two different types. There's the ITF style, which is the more freestyle version. It's pretty much, it's essentially kickboxing where a lot of people have started to introduce knees and a lot of Muay Thai stuff into it. And it's freestyle Taekwondo.
That was the one you did, right?
Yeah. It's freestyle Taekwondo. I did both. But ITF is much better because it's full contact or semi-contact. It's just kicking everything above the knee, no calf kicks or anything like that. And just normal kickboxing, you can add in knees and things like that, and back fists and things like that. But then there's WTF Taekwondo, which is the Olympic Taekwondo, where you can only kick. You can punch, but you can only punch to the stomach, and it's not a proper punch. It's usually the punch is used to create distance, to push away from someone so you can kick them. And usually they have someone that clicks for point sparring, just like point fighting karate, which is quite a bit watered down as well. And then they have sensors in the guard, where if you kick, if you kick them in the flank, it doesn't get a point. But if you kick them in the stomach or the side, the sensor goes ding, and you get a score.
Okay.
And there.
I don't think they'll want to do that.
I don't think they're going to want to do that because most people that enjoy Taekwondo look at Olympic Taekwondo and go, I'm glad Taekwondo's in the Olympics, but don't really like the version. It's quite watered down, and I don't want to see a watered version of MMA.
What I would like, though, is the Olympics maybe to have their own system of judging. They learn from the mistakes. Don't adopt the boxing judge point system. Make their own little point system. Make it better. It could be a chance for MMA to improve.
Yeah.
Okay? And then they would have to decide the rounds. They would have to decide the ounce gloves. They would have to decide, does a takedown, mate, if it can't be through knockout, is it what's worth more, a takedown or a knockdown? You know? If they get a submission, you know?
They haven't even sorted those own rules out for normal professional MMA.
Yeah.
I question if they would be able to get, if they don't get it ready for professional MMA, I don't know if you would get it ready for Olympic MMA in 2028. I mean, 2028 is it's in eight years' time. It doesn't seem that, to be honest, 8 years' time, we're both going to be 30. It seems really long, but 8 years I don't think is long enough to create a rule set that could be adopted in like Olympic and professional MMA. It's an interesting question.
8 years from now, when we start to grow a few grey hairs, and then we have
grey hairs at 30, mate. Come on.
Maybe a couple grey hairs.
Although my granddad, he was bald. He was balding in his early 20s, and I was like, but I've obviously
super long.
Yeah, I got super long and thick hair, so I'm all good.
Maybe just cut off when you get your next haircut. Save a bit for your wig when you're 30.
Yeah, well, I thought about if I grew my hair out long enough, would I be able to like cut it and sell it for money?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people do that. They grow their hair. That's what they do to make a little bit of extra money, and they'll grow it out really, and it can't be long like that. It has to be way. I mean, for those that are listening, I'm pointing to like nipple area. It has to be a lot longer. That it has to be down to maybe your stomach or your ass. They cut it, and it will be used for hair extensions and wigs and things like that. And they pay decent money, but it has to be like a good hair.
Yeah. What I was saying is 8 years from now, it's us filming whatever episode of The Last Set. We did this conversation 8 years ago.
Yeah, I know. We're going to sound very old. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be nice to see, 2028. So this episode's a time capsule in 2028. Don't say we didn't tell you.
Okay.
All right.
What I wanted to speak about was...
There's one thing actually I just wanted to bring.
Okay, sure.
This is a little bit away.
Okay,
I'm going to ask you to get your opinion.
Well,
I know this isn't the kind of things that we talk about on The Last Set, but it's been on the news everywhere. What is your take on that woman who apparently lured a bunch of 14-year-old boys into her home and had sex with one of them? Have you seen that on the news?
No.
And she got away with it.
No, I never saw that.
She said in the court of law, I didn't think he was 14. I swear he was 16. And she got away with it. And then she's celebrating outside the courtroom. And then I remember I'm not saying names, but...
Oh, my God.
And then she said, I got to say this because it's hilarious.
That's not good, dude.
I know
that's
it's not good.
Good.
But I got to say this point because it's hilarious. She said apparently on a post, she said she wanted to thank everyone who stood behind her. And then someone just said in the comment section on Facebook, like that 14-year-old boy did.
Oh my God.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
Sorry, man. I had to bring it up. But
I never saw that.
You never saw that?
No,
It's everywhere.
I haven't seen it.
It's everywhere.
It's on the radio and things like that. Because I don't listen to the radio. That's why.
On every news channel, on every social media platform,
All right. Well, if we're going to bring up sexual stuff, let's talk about Jon Jones's original nickname. His original nickname, and he mentioned it in a tweet, and actually some people have found the original video of his old MMA fights. His original name was not Bones. His original name was John Sexual Chocolates Jones.
What?
Yeah, do you want me to show you? I'll show you.
I'm pretty sure that's a stripper. I'm pretty sure that's a stripper name.
I mean, you never know. Jon Jones could have been a stripper.
Could have been a stripper.
I'll bring it up because somebody posted it, and then I think Jon Jones and the Jack Winklejohn camp brought it out. I'll see if I can bring it up.
John Sexual Chocolate.
Wait, I'm trying to find it now.
Ooh, he's got a history with party drugs and drinking and driving, so I'm not saying it doesn't fit the profile of a stripper, but
wait, let me find it. I've got it here. All right, just...
Oh my God. What league was that?
I have no idea, to be honest.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's so fucking funny. That is, and he did a tweet. I saw it last week, and I didn't really believe him that like he said, "Oh, my original name was Sexual Chocolate." I had no idea what the fuck I was thinking, and then somebody actually found the original. And it's funny how someone who's considered the GOAT, like the greatest of all time. I mean, yes, there's the steroids, blah blah blah, but no one has ever mentioned that his original nickname was not Bones. It was sexual. I just found that so funny.
Can you imagine getting knocked out by a guy called Sexual Chocolate?
I mean, to be fair, there's been worse ones, I think. There's been pretty bad names.
Can you name them?
Dude, there's so many. There's so fucking many. I mean, a lot of the time they change them. They change them later down the line. I'm glad Jones did. There's been quite a few bad names. There's a lot of good ones. I like Tony Ferguson's one. El Kukui is a good one. That's one that's scary for most people.
Yeah, I mean, I like ones like
I like Jack Hermansson's Joker. That one's good as well.
That one's pretty good, And then I like Jared Cannon's Killer Gorilla.
Yeah, that one's good as well.
Yeah, Robert Whitaker's The Reaper.
That one's good.
What is it? What's it called? Fedor Emelianenko is called The Last Emperor.
You've got Soldier of God.
Soldier of God.
I don't really like Michael Bisping's. The Count.
That's not really a bad one, but there's just a whole bunch of good ones.
Diamond Poirier is not too bad.
It is Israel the last style bender.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Conor Notorious McGregor,
No, yeah, not too bad. Lionheart, Anthony Smith. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Apparently, one guy, the guy performed the knockout today via slam, via takedown. Was it slam or takedown in today's main card?
Yeah, he was the Monkey King.
The Monkey King.
I like that.
I like that name too.
Because the Monkey King comes from Son Goku. That's what it comes from.
Yeah, correct.
So that as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's a cool name, and he's pretty silly. To be honest, afterwards he was like, I mean, one of his ones, he won his fight and then he went straight into a front split.
Yeah,
and he was just like acting. Actually, no. After he slammed him on the ground, today I believe it was UFC debut actually, the Monkey King. Yeah. His coaches went on lifting him up and did the Dirty Dancing pose. I know. I wanted to bring up Tyron Woodley. He's been getting back into the swing of things, and he was sparring at his camp with Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah,
Joaquin Buckley's been training with him a little bit.
Yeah, he's in a hot moment right now.
Exactly, and he's getting a lot of hype. And Woodley said, "Oh, I'm learning some old school and some new school stuff." What was interesting was, I thought you might find this interesting as well, that he posted something 6 days ago on his Instagram, and he also mentioned this on the Food Truck Diaries. On the Food Truck Diaries, he mentioned he had not rewatched his fight with Usman, where he lost his title. He'd not watched it, and he refused to watch it, and that's why it took him so long to get back into the gym, because he hadn't even gone back into the gym for months after he lost to Usman and things like that. I think it was quite devastating for him, since he held himself in such high regard and he didn't expect to lose to Usman, right? The other day, 6 days ago actually, rather, he posted a picture of him watching the Usman fight. And it's interesting that it was that long ago and he's only watching it now, and he captioned it, rewatching this as part of the healing process. What's your take on it? Because it's funny that he's watching it so late now, because Kamaru's had how many?
He's had a few.
He's had 2 or 3 defenses.
Masvidal, he's had Colby Covington,
and he's up to his 3rd title defense, I believe. Yeah,
but not even that. But like, what, you waited this long to watch your Tyron Woodley fight? How long is it going to take for you to watch the Colby Covington fight?
I don't think he has an issue with that. I think it was the issue with the Usman fight, because he was. I
think it was
dominate.
Covington. Maybe it was been a result, like a
maybe an eye opener.
Consequence, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe the loss to Colby was an eye opener, that he has to rewatch all these fights and really address some things. Yeah. And it seems like he's still got that fire to go back and into the octagon and that.
Because we see it all the time. We see it all the time with fighters who, you know, they fight for so long and they're so active, and then they just feel a bit burnt out. And then when that loss comes, they feel like a sense of, you know, they can reset. You know, let's go for a reset. I think that's what happened to Robert Whittaker. There was so much pressure on that dude, and then when he finally lost his Adesanya, you know, he took some time off for his family, and he came back, and now he looks better than ever.
Yeah, yeah.
So there's a look, and I say this all the time. There is a huge benefit to some fighters taking time off. Masvidal took how many years off away from the sport?
Probably two.
2 years. Comes back, overnight sensation. So there is a benefit to taking time away. GSP retired, came back.
4 years later?
Yeah. Won the title once again off Michael Bisping. You know, there's a lot of benefit to taking some time off and allowing yourself to redevelop and grow, because I don't feel like there's a lot when they're competing in the UFC, they have a lot of pressure on them, they have a lot of competition. But when they're not competing, there's not as much pressure, and allows time for their mind to refresh. And we always learn things when we're much more calmer. Yeah. And we're in a when in a low state of arousal. Yeah. So,
is there any interesting fights that you're particularly looking forward to next UFC? Yeah. Because there's Figueiredo versus Moreno is happening next week, correct?
My boy Ferguson's fighting Charles Oliveira.
Yes.
Come on. Like, Ferguson, he's got something to prove now. I'm pretty sure he's fired up after his loss to Gagey. I'm pretty sure he's fired up that he'll never get to fight Khabib. Well, never say never, but he won't get his fight with Khabib. You know, it just wasn't meant to happen. So, homeboy, he's still in his athletic prime right now, Ferguson.
Yeah.
So he's still got time to get back.
It's Tony Ferguson versus Brazilian twin Tony Ferguson.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think a lot of people have been saying that lately.
They photoshopped each other's faces on, and they looked exactly the same.
Yeah, but I'm just so impressed with Davison Figueiredo, how he's double booked.
Yeah, I mean, good for him, because a lot of the time, the amount of success these fighters have, it's from being crazy active. And I think that's just what he's trying to do.
Flyweight division's on fire. It is on fire
and
right now.
It took a real big dip after DJ kind of left.
Yeah.
And he got swapped, and they did that with Ben Askren and things like that. And it kind of dipped a fair bit because DJ was so... He just dominated. He just killed them all, honestly. And then...
suplex into an armbar. When will we ever see that again?
Probably one of the most impressive submissions ever. And can't remember who... Was that Ray Borg he did? I'm pretty sure that was Ray Borg he did that too. I mean... after DJ left, it kind of allowed a clean slate to occur, and that allowed Henry Cejudo, after he beat DJ in that controversial decision, I think. And then... it brought a lot of limelight, and then there was the TJ Dillashaw coming down. Ooh, interesting to bring up. Now, I thought we would bring up UFC 256. TJ, he's about to...
his suspension's almost up.
It's almost up. And I think his next fight, he wants a title shot right off the bat. I don't think that's going to happen. But who I think would be a really good one for him is... Sandhagen, Corey Sandhagen. Mm-hmm. I feel like the Sandman would be brilliant for him because they used to be old training partners. Mm-hmm. And I think TJ said to him, well, Corey wants to fight me because if he beats me, he's going to get a title shot next, and, vice versa. And he doesn't really want to take on Corey because he's such a nice guy, but if he has to, he has to. I'd love to see that fight. TJ coming back, because I felt he was a brilliant bantamweight champion. He'll be a 3-time bantamweight champion if he won the belt again. But I mean, to be honest, bantamweight is really interesting right now as well. You've got Peter Yan. He's got pulled out of the Aljamain fight twice now. I think it was a visa issue. Yeah. I think it was a visa issue. Before, there was some type of injury. Then... afterwards was the visa issue. Aljamain started feeling a little bit, feeling like Tony Ferguson, to be fair. Always getting pulled out of these major fights and not really... he worked so hard to get this title fight, and now it's not even occurring. So I hope this is going to happen the third time lucky.
Next year. Yeah.
Exactly. Peter Yan, there's Aljamain Sterling, Corey Sandhagen. You've got TJ coming back. You've got Cody Garbrandt, hopefully going to continue at bantamweight, although he really does want to go down to flyweight, and he's very adamant he wants to go down to flyweight. He wants to hopefully fight Figueiredo around March. So
Figueiredo is probably becoming one of the very, very active flyweight champion.
Yeah, and I think the way he fights also is very explosive and powerful, and it's not common in a flyweight.
Yeah, he also has a hard time weight cutting.
Look at him though. He's built like a featherweight or a lightweight fighter.
So what if he went up and tried to fight Petr Yan?
I can see that happening for sure. And I feel like it would be a much easier cut for him.
Yeah, I feel like for Figueiredo though, he needs to sort of, if he just keeps doing what he's doing, building his hype, he can fight, Petr Yan maybe at the end of next year to become a double champ. And then, there's two fights I know that need to go down at some point next year. That's Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan and Gilbert Burns versus Usman.
Yeah, I really want to see Gilbert versus Usman.
We were supposed to have Gilbert Burns months and months ago.
Long time ago.
Yeah, and then Masvidal stepped in, so...
Masvidal apparently is... Masvidal versus Colby is supposed to be targeted for February next year.
When friends become rivals.
Exactly, and...
I can see that on a poster.
I mean, there's 3 big money fights for Masvidal. You've got... McGregor versus Masvidal would be big, and I reckon that press conference would be amazing. Actually, no, there's 4. Okay. Another one would be him versus Nate Diaz, him versus Leon Edwards instead of Khamzat. Although hopefully I do want to see that fight anyway, Khamzat versus Leon, and then there's Masvidal versus Colby. It's a very interesting. Masvidal is in a very interesting position because he has so many options. Yep. He's got McGregor. You're going to have to fight with Diaz again for the rematch for the BMF. I don't know why negotiations went south with that, but that would be cool to see in the future. I'd love to see Nate back in the octagon as well. There's Leon Edwards, and there's Colby. The Colby versus Masvidal is a very interesting one because they've trained together, ate together, slept together. I mean, well, not that kind of slept together, but they've been in the same training environment, the same kind of social environment. They were best friends for a really long time. I think Masvidal considered them brothers, and whatever happened between them really made them to split apart. And it's interesting to think that if they do fight, are they going to have a particular advantage over each other because they know each other's strengths quite intimately?
Yeah. Well, one thing I tell you what I'm looking forward to tomorrow, countdown to 256.
Yeah, is that going to launch tomorrow?
Well, that's going to launch tomorrow. That's going to be oh my God. I'm just going to clear the schedule. No one's going to disturb me for 30 minutes. Just watch countdown. I say, nope, watching countdown. Don't care. Gym's on fire, watching countdown. Someone's trying to call me. Nope, watching countdown.
I know.
Just me, my coffee, and my breakfast, watching countdown.
Yeah, I'm so excited for next week. The UFC is bringing out some really, really good fights, to be honest.
Yep. It's bringing the heat.
Yeah. All right, ready? Wrap it up?
Yep, let's wrap it up.
Sweet. All right, thanks, guys, for listening. Appreciate you guys. If you haven't already, please subscribe, anything like that. And if you want to look at our social media, Last Set Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Twitter, everything.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, guys, Jack, we did it. 30 episodes.
It was our 30th episode. So thank you very much for listening. Yeah, we really do appreciate it. We've been doing this for a decent amount of time, and it'll be really cool when we hit 50, 75, and then 100. We'll have to do something for the 50 or the 100. I think the 100 we should do something. Have a party or something like that. Have a big fucking party.
Have a celebration.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to look forward to seeing if we can get more guests on the podcast. We were supposed to have a UFC fighter on last week or the week before, and some things have fell through. A little bit of logistics behind the scenes wasn't working out. So we'll sort that out. We're trying to get more guests on that are out of MMA as well. That would be interesting as well, just to have less fight guests on and more well-rounded people like entrepreneurs and artists. We could have all kinds of people on, to be honest, and we're going to do more research into bringing different guests into the spotlight for us, most likely through Zoom calls, because COVID has made a lot of podcasting a little bit difficult to have people in.
Or even try and find just talent here in Perth.
Yeah, we can look into that too. So stay tuned. If you guys haven't already, please subscribe. It does help us out a lot. And put those notifications on because you're going to be reminded that you've just downloaded our new podcast or that we've just released a new YouTube video. So you should definitely watch it. All right. Thanks, guys. Peace. Bye.